when a baby is on the way, there's so much to think about. What are the important financial things you need to think about? That's what we're going to talk about on today's episode of Friends Talk Financial Planning. Hi, I'm John Shearer, and I run a fee-only financial planning practice in Middleton, Wisconsin.
Hey, John, I'm Bridget Sullivan-Ramel, and I've got a fee-only financial planning practice in Chicago, Illinois. Before we go any further, we want to mention, please subscribe. That helps us get some respect with YouTube and help more people find us. So, John, let's talk today about what we tell young parents and parents of these young parents about what's important with their finances. Sometimes people, it's the first time with adulting and they've got a lot on their minds. And we want to make sure that people also include on their minds the important financial things.
That's right. That's right. And it's so from our experience, like with our client base, it's the people that are having the baby, right? But a lot of it's grandparents. Like, how do you think, or, how do you help your kids think through those things?
Right.
And what's important. And there's so much noise out there and everybody's got an opinion, right? Here's what you need to do, this or that. And like, what are the important things on the checklist? So I'd be interested to hear what do you share with your clients directly? Let's say you have a grandparent, right? You have a client and their grandbaby's on the way. What do you talk about with them?
Well, there's 4 different topics. There's 2 topics that I think are the most important, and then there's 2 topics that address common questions that people have. So the thing that I think is most vital, number 1 on my list, is life insurance. And almost all young couples need life insurance, and I recommend getting term insurance on the internet. Like just term insurance is what you're looking for, and get life insurance. You don't think you're going to die, so it's cheap. Nobody thinks you're going to die. It's not expensive, but if in the worst case scenario, and I know people that this has happened to, and someone dies and you don't have life insurance, it really puts your spouse in a bind.
Yep. So number 1 is buying life insurance, and I'm on board with that. What's your number 2 thing on your checklist for clients?
Wills. Make sure you name some guardians so that if something happens to both of you, there's no debate that somebody is going to decide what happens. And I'd rather have it be the parents rather than a judge in some court somewhere. So wills are the second thing, and nobody likes thinking about it, but just put something down and you're going to be much happier. If again, we're trying to plan for the worst case scenarios here.
Yep. You got to protect the downside. So get your life insurance, get a will in place. One of the things I hear a lot of questions about is saving for college. How do we do that as soon as the baby's born, right? What's your take on that?
Great topic for grandparents. If they know their kid's got insurance and has a will, then the third thing they might spend some money on, if they want to give some money to their kids or grandkids, is college savings. And if people are motivated on college savings, I try to help them out with that. I think there's a lot of information out there about college savings. But I really prioritize getting a will and life insurance over college savings.
Yeah, I'm on the same page with that saving for college, I mean, paying for college is important, but those things are less of the new things that need to be done. Like if there's extra money, that's great, but there's other priorities. And we often talk with clients about, so when their grandchildren are being born is, hey, we want to give money and provide college. What about giving money? Because I'm on the same page with you, as those wills are super important. And it's one of those things that for a new parent, oh yeah, that's right, I should do that. But it's not that sort of top of mind. Oh yeah, it's not what's being trumpeted out there compared to the cost of college, right? The cost of college.
I think more people are concerned about what color should I paint the nursery, or can I get the crib? Then should I get a will, and what should my will say? And it's like people don't have a lot of dread about doing a will. And when you're, if you're a young parent, it's just not what you're thinking about. So most of the time. So getting people into thinking about a will and some term life insurance, that's what I think is most important.
Yeah, and I love, so I kind of twist those around just a little bit, that for me, the will is the most important thing for people. That's like number 1, but number 1A is definitely getting enough life insurance. And I'll tell you just one comment on that, term insurance, that's the way to go. And people need more than they think they need oftentimes. Or you think, oh, geez, I mean, $1 million is a lot of money if you win in the lottery, but it's not a lot of money if you're raising a child for the next 20 years, right? Without it, as a single parent, right? So that sort of thing. The other thing that I hear people ask, being concerned about is just the cost. Like, how do we deal with, and this is more not the grandparents, but the actual parents, right? Of how do I deal with the cost of having a new person in the house, right? I'm going to take care of, how do I think about all these things? And I know you mentioned a resource that you share with your clients, which I think is just great, but talk a little bit about that, how you think about the cost of having a kid.
Well, the USDA puts out statistics that tells for each region the average cost per age per kid. So you can actually find out about what it costs. When I have talked to clients, I give them a round number. I say, plan on spending an extra $1,000 a month. That seems to make everybody curious, but as for a lot of people, that just satisfies them. Okay, $1,000 a month. But John, you've got actual experience with this because you've had kids recently. So tell me about your costs.
Yeah, it's funny that when I think about the professional side versus the personal side, sometimes they just don't correlate with things. But yeah, I mean, the cost of having the kids, in particular, one of the things I have experienced and hear clients talk about is the cost of preschool and daycare in those early years. I mean, it's just astronomical. And I can speak from experience with my two boys who were just a year apart, that when they were both in preschool and daycare, it was effectively the cost of going to UW-Madison for college for 1 year, right? I mean, it's a pretty significant expense. So, but the interesting thing, and for viewers, talk to people who have been through this. Like, I ask clients all the time, what happened when you had kids? How did you save for preschool? Well, what are you talking about? We didn't save for daycare, right? You just make it work.
Yeah.
Well, a similar thought process for college. And that's where a lot of that part of things come in. So as we think about those things we're talking about today, Bridget, it's get enough life insurance, make sure you've got your wills in place, think about college, but not too much, maybe for grandma and grandpa. And then, how do we think about our spending on things? How do we prepare for that? And those last two things that are often on people's checklists, like those often are the highest things front of mind. Oh, we got to save for college. How do we prepare for these things? Those in many ways take care of themselves. Not that they're not important, but they're not worth focusing a lot of time on, in my experience, both professionally and personally, I guess. And that it's those other two is that, if you don't do anything, you're going to be able to pay for daycare. It's going to, things will work out. But what you need to do, like the two real action items, I think, for new parents is the getting your wills in place and getting guardians for the kids and getting enough life insurance that you're protected. That's something that is not going to just work out if you don't do it. So that's sort of my takeaway on it, is like two really important things. And some of the things that maybe people hear or feel aren't quite as important in my mind as it might feel like as a new parent.
So with that, let's wrap it up. I'm Bridget Sullivan-Ramel, and I've got a fee-only financial planning practice in Chicago. And I'm with John Shearer, who's got a fee-only financial planning practice in Middleton, Wisconsin. And please subscribe. Enough said. John, why don't you close us out?
Sure. Bridget and I are both members of the Alliance of Comprehensive Planners, which is a national group of fee-only, tax-focused financial advisors. If you like what you hear on our show here, please check out acplanners.org to find an ACP planner in your area. And with that, until next time, Bridget.